of soul.
This is Bass Talk Live. Your host, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrack. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Big Bite Baits, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Monday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Yes, once again, Mr. Bradley Hallman is in studio with us here on a Monday. And Matthew, all kinds of stuff to talk about, man.
Watch this.
What?
Social spacing.
For those of you on iTunes, I just rolled my desk about 6 feet away from Brad Hallman for the social spacing there, or whatever it's called. But
yeah,
MLF still fishing, the Elite Series, not fishing.
Yeah, and crazy times, man, and we'll get into it about that situation. But yes, they are still fishing. And Matthew, this weekend there were only 2 live professional events taking place in the U.S. What were they?
Was one UFC?
No, that was in Brazil.
Was one the first day of the Players?
No.
That was last week. 2 live events?
Yeah.
Does Major League Fishing count as one?
Yes.
And what was the other one?
No fans.
Brad?
I have no idea.
No fans.
I have zero idea what else went on.
It was in Las Vegas,
Boxing?
which is almost a ghost town right now.
What was it?
Boxing?
It was the PBA World Championship.
Bowling.
Yep.
Wow.
And Jason Belmonte got it done.
We should have known.
Just a weird feeling not to have any fans there, and in such a large facility there at South Point Lanes, really the whole casino and everything. And dude, man, I'm old. I am the senior guy here, and I just have never, ever seen anything like what is taking place in this world. And I'm not talking just bass fishing, in life, and just everything that's taking place. And we are going to continue, obviously, doing our shows this week. And it is just a situation that, let's face it, Bradley, there's just a lot of people out there that just don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's really a different time for sure. I started sending you texts, I believe it was last week, wasn't it? Weren't you still at work?
It was this week.
Last week. This is Monday,
Well,
so it would have been last Friday.
Yeah.
But last Thursday or Friday, I started sending you texts about what about when they start canceling bass tournaments, and you were like, you just fired right back real quick. What? That's not going to happen. Have they canceled them yet?
I know.
And then the dominoes started falling.
Yeah, and here's the deal with the cancellations. Just my thoughts. I did not get a chance to talk to any of the bass officials.
Postponed. They haven't been canceled yet. The postponed.
Right,
Keyword
right.
there.
They're going to try and reschedule it. Is the effect that it has on the anglers themselves from the crowd and the anglers. Here's the other thing. There were a number of anglers from the Bassmaster Classic that were ill. They were sick. They had the flu. I don't know how many, if any, got tested for the coronavirus, but there were a number of anglers and family members. In fact, on Wednesday, we're going to have Hank Cherry on, and he's been fighting the flu. His family, his kids. I mean, so there were a lot of reasons, and the perception is that at least on that side, well, you know, it's him and an official or a marshal or whatever, they can just go fish. Well, it's a little bit different business model for what the Elite Series has compared to what Major League Fishing has.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why that Major League Fishing can do what they do, is because obviously of their format and the fact that it's just an official and the angler, and they're taking all the precautions to make sure that you know, everything is wiped down, and whatever they got to do, the likelihood of somebody connecting with somebody that has the coronavirus is extremely low compared to a situation where you have fans and everything else involved in what the Elite Series does. Matthew, agree?
Yeah, right now the Elite Series on Lake Chickamauga scheduled for the 19th through 22nd is postponed, as well as the Carhartt College Series on Hartwell, which is March 26th through 28th. Now, the following week is an Elite Series in the beginning of April scheduled for Eufaula. The week after that is the Central Open on Louisville, and the week after that is the Elite Series on Santee Cooper. Yeah. So depending on how things go, right now those are the only two that are postponed. But with Bass kind of setting the precedence at both the college level and the Elite Series level as far as no fans, and you kind of listen to the news and stuff, I mean, this theoretically could affect the first Open, the next two Elite Series as well. So you take in the weather delay that they had at Chickamauga, where they were unable to fish following the Florida swing, where they really only fished 2.5 days with 2 days of weather cancellations. Mm-hmm. And you should be halfway through the Elite Series season, and you're at a point where we might potentially see 2.5 days and the Classic getting fished. And the other thing that I brought up, Brad, was, we were at the Classic when all this was kind of going down. We were doing a lot of elbow bumps, kind of not joking about it, but just kind of saying, there's a lot of people here. Imagine if the Classic had been scheduled 1 week later than it was. We were at the very front of when all this started going down towards the end of the Classic, remember? And that very next week, if it had been the next week, I don't think we would have had the Bassmaster Classic in 2020, Mark and Brad.
I mean, we were definitely talking about it on the way down. We got some of that on video. We were talking about it being the Corona Classic and joking about different things. But it was the front end of the deal. And, I noticed while we were there, I noticed more hand sanitizer going around at the Classic at booths than I'd ever seen before.
Yeah. Anyway, I say we talk about fish. We got talked about. If you want to watch that, there's like 15 news stations that you can talk about. All this stuff. We've got so much to get into.
I know. I need to say one thing, though. We're going to have Ken Duke on tomorrow because from a business standpoint, this is going to have a huge effect in the industry. And there's some pockets that I want to talk to Ken about because I think there's actually opportunities out there for revenue to increase rather than decrease because of the situation that's taking place.
Absolutely. And there could be some modifications made to some of the tournaments, too. Yeah. There absolutely could be modifications. Same thing that they're doing at the movie theaters. There could be some things done.
So we'll see. Obviously, this is much, much, much bigger than the world of bass fishing or professional bass fishing. So some very, very trying times. All right, Matthew, what else you got?
Major League Fishing on Lake Fork. We'll touch on this, and then we'll kind of circle back to some news that I thought it kind of surprised me when I saw it. As one of the legends that I grew up with, one of the guys that I actually went to an outdoor show to meet and get an autograph from when I was like 8 years old. But Major League Fishing, we are going to have, I think I know who we're going to have on today. I walked into the studio late, and this has been 2 weeks in the making. But
no, he caught him.
He caught him. We'll leave that. We want to announce who we've got on?
Tell him.
We got Jason Christie on.
Live via Skype.
Third after his round, but this is the last of the day 2 of the qualifying rounds for Group B today. In Group, what? Who's leading it? Or now was what? Michael Neal. That whole group is fishing now. He is in the lead there. Yeah. And then in Group A, Mark Daniels Jr. had 111 pounds, almost 112 pounds
Jeff
in
Sprague
31 fish, and then Jason Christie, Keith Poche. So they're catching them on Lake Fork, unsurprising. Multiple fish over 8. Christie had a 10, little over 10, and then he had a 10-4, and then that was beat by a 10-8 less than 24 hours later by Justin Atkins. Yeah. So that's going on. But this is what I saw, and I immediately thought of some of the stuff that's going on here in a Minneapolis, Minnesota news article, Mark. You got the same one?
I did. I saw the same thing, man.
Babe Winkleman. You know about this?
The Babe. I do not. I heard you guys vaguely talking about it.
This is the title in the Duluth News-Tribune. TV legend Babe Winkleman files for bankruptcy.
Wow.
I mean, the guy's been around forever. What's your earliest memory of Babe Winkleman? You're a Southern guy. I'm more of a Northern guy.
No, but he was on. I mean, he was on.
He was the guy.
Early, yeah. I mean, he was with Orlando Wilson and all those guys when those guys were out. So he's been around a long time.
Yeah, it was interesting because they listed all the financials of his bankruptcy filing in this story.
Oh, God.
Assets, liabilities, debt. They even talked about his 2 homes and all this and everything. But what was and I didn't read the full article. Matt was telling me, what was the underlying statement that was made in the story, Matthew, that really caught your attention?
Yeah, this was written by John Myers, like I said, in the Duluth News Tribune, and you kind of scroll down, and there's a section of this article that I thought was interesting, and he said, Winkleman declined to comment further, however, referring questions to his attorney, and then this is what the author wrote. He said, YouTube videos and audio podcasts are a growing venue for, quote, professional, unquote, anglers and hunters to showcase their talents with little overhead and no syndicated costs, and for the advertisers to reach their audience and potential customers, while traditional outdoor television shows and publications have seen declines in viewers and advertising. In 2019, Southstrong.com podcast, Tom Rowland, producer of Saltwater TV Experience and other outdoor shows, said the industry is going through a breakneck change from traditional television shows to streaming services, YouTube, podcasts, and other online avenues.
Wow.
Sound familiar, Brad?
Sounds very familiar.
The Babe did not modify his format, basically.
Yep.
And I heard some things that he liked to spend a little money, too.
Really?
So
No, he said he'd be back. He said he's going to get his finances under control, and he'll be back filming next year. But, I mean, you were one of those guys, Brad, and we've talked about it on the show before and kind of documented who you had to kind of go through a transition from a guy who was put your head down, not really worried about the media at all. I'm just going to go out and catch fish, to really kind of understanding this tournament and trying to get on the leading edge of it as far as the YouTube and with the podcast here and your fishing.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's something that I found that I just enjoyed by accident, too, and didn't know that I would enjoy the recording and the editing and that part of the video part. But, yeah, I think you're going to see a big push of a lot of pro anglers coming. I think that it's going to become the norm, unfortunately, for all of us. And I say unfortunately just because it is a tremendous amount of work.
I hear these guys talk. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Brad. There's a number of anglers who are not traditionally, I mean, they didn't grow up in the media like I did and then a transition. They grew up fishing, and there's a group of them that are realizing the importance of having a presence in all this and how the sponsors are viewing it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a fun side to it, but there's also the work side to it, and it's real and legit, you know. But I definitely enjoy doing it, and I know a lot of the other guys too that are doing it right now. They definitely do it from enjoyment.
Yeah.
You know, Scott's probably leading the edge. I mean, he's King Kong in that business on that side of it, and you guys are King Kong on the podcast side of it. So
we'll see, man. We'll see.
Brad called me the other day. He's like, what do you think of that video? It's because he's doing it. I said, it's good, dude. And he goes, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. He goes, is that supposed to take 7 hours to edit that?
All right, we're going to take a break. Come back with Jason Christie. Everybody stay tuned on a Monday.
The ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. Upgrade to HDS Live with a Ghost trolling motor, live sight transducer, or Structure Scan 3D, and get up to $500 cash back.
Yeah, you care about gear ratios, inches per turn, and ball bearings, but most importantly, you want reliability and dependability in the equipment you use. Lew's doesn't cut corners when it comes to the gear they build. The new Speed Spool LFS is the best $99 reel in the market. Go see for yourself.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need a 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it the sexy shad color?
At Duckett Fishing, we have assembled the top pros in the country to help us design rods to give you a competitive advantage. Castability, strength, durability, action, sensitivity, weight and balance, and consistency. Combine that with the best warranty in the industry, and you have rods that are pro-driven.
Duckett Fishing, pro-driven.
I want to share with you a new product we got coming out from Sunline. This is the FC leader size spools that we have now. We've gotten a lot of requests for this. A lot of you guys use fluorocarbon for leaders only, myself included. And one of the problems you have is when you have a 200-yard spool, that might last you 2, 3, 4 years. You might even lose it before you even get done with the spool. So we've gone to a little smaller spool. These are 50-yard spool sizes. You know, that way you're not holding your line on forever. You can keep your line fresh, use it when you can, stores real easily in the boat. We got all of our popular line sizes that you're used to with our Sniper from 5 to 14 pound. If you guys are looking for a line that you're only tying for a leader, go check out Sunline FC Leader 100% fluorocarbon and give it a try.
Blue Water by TH Marine, offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
The name SPRO says it all. SPRO stands for Sports Professionals. When you look at the pro staff that SPRO has brought on board over the past 15 years, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, one got it just then. From the development of the Rock Crawler to the McStick, from the Fat Papa to the Little John series, when you tie a SPRO bait on, you know it's been designed by a professional to get the job done.
While I travel the country on the Bassmaster Elite Series, I simply can't let the weather be the reason I don't win $100,000. That's why I use AFCO clothing to keep me warm, dry, and protected from whatever Mother Nature wants to throw at me. My season depends on it. My career depends on it. AFCO, any fish, any water.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
The Big Bite Baits Kamikaze Swim-On is a very unique bait, and it's got a full body but with ribs to give it a bigger profile but not more plastic. It's got a jointed tail that gives it a lot of action, as well as this up and down crawl type trail with holes and ribs in it, so it creates a bubble trail almost. This bait is supposed to be fished upside down or vertical like this on a great for a chatterbait. I prefer it on a swim jig as well, but you can also cut it down and put it on the back of a finesse jig. You know, flip it around for some spotted bass or flipping docks. Anytime you want a small, compact, you know, little trailer for it, this is great for it. So check out the full lineup of swim-ons at bigbitebaits.com.
All right, we are back on a Monday. BTL, 3 shows this week. Ken Duke tomorrow, and then the Bassmaster Classic champion on Wednesday, Mr. Hank Sherry.
He didn't go through the, what did you used to call it, the wash?
No.
Where they send, remember
wash.
they used to send him to, was it Bristol?
Yeah.
And they do all sorts of interviews and stuff, but I'm sure he's been pretty busy since the Gunners.
Well, they were right into the event, and now things kind of got
Is that good or bad for him, though? Because he now gets, I mean, there hasn't been a Bassmaster tournament for weeks after, as opposed to another champion and moving on and stuff. So, I mean, his win gets to kind of
linger.
It's just a weird time, guys. It really is. It's just, wow. But one thing for sure is I mentioned only 2 live events. Now, somebody threw something out on the instant feedback, said the PBR was live with no fans.
Really?
This past weekend. You would know more about that, rodeo boy.
I know they canceled Austin. I know they canceled Houston.
Yep.
They've canceled a lot of the big rodeos, which has been really bad for people because those are like, week-long, month-long things that a lot of guys depend on for their whole career earnings.
So fishing and bowling, that's it. And
bull
now,
riding.
And bull riding, I guess. Somewhere. I didn't see it anywhere on the web or on television. But a very, very entertaining event taking place at one of the greatest fisheries in the U.S. on Lake Fork. And we have another Oklahoma angler on. A man that made a special appearance, a couple weeks ago, a week ago, here on the show. But now caught a 10-4, Matthew? Is that right?
A 10-4 after they finished third in the qualifying rounds. He had 97-11 in 25 fish with a 10-4 anchoring that. He also had a 9-pounder that went viral on a frog that just kind of sucked it under. And then he went, oh, that's a large one.
All right, let's bring him in. Jason, you there, man?
Yes, sir. How are you guys?
Doing good, man. Thank you so much for taking time out, coming on the show. And, man, just a great couple of days for you.
Yeah, it was. I really needed that first day. Obviously, it's been a slow couple of tournaments, and that first day honestly didn't start off great. I mean, I made a decision, and it wasn't great. I kind of got off I caught a few, but that second period decision, when I caught some fish, caught that 10-pounder, that's kind of when I felt like the mojo had gotten back in the boat.
I guess. Jeez. So finished in third. Really, I know we've talked about it before, Jason, but what was the difference? What was the big difference that you saw this week than any of the other weeks? Was your confidence really high going into it? What was it?
No, it's simple. I got some bites. I mean, it's that simple. There's just, Bradley's sitting there and you guys fish a little bit. There's times that you go fishing and you're trying to put the puzzle together and there's a square hole in the puzzle and you have a round piece. It just doesn't fit. And there's no explanation. I mean, your confidence is built with bites. And until you get that first bite, you're just like spinning, and that's what happened the first couple of tournaments. And this tournament, I got some bites early, and then got some big bites. And the more bites you get, the more you just can't make a wrong decision. I mean, it feels like every decision you make is right. You pull into pockets, thinking, there's fish in here. I just got to figure out how to catch them, rather than you pull in and you're wondering, is there any fish in here? Am I in the wrong place? What's the guy over there doing? Those are the things that go through your mind whenever you're not getting bites.
You're somewhat close to Lake Fork, being from Oklahoma. What's your experience and what is your history on this body of water?
We were just talking about it. I'm actually sitting here at the Texas Freshwater Fisheries Center where, they do a great job in Texas. I have in my lifetime caught 6, 7, or 8, somewhere around there, 10-pound fish. I mean, 10, 10-1, 10-2. The 10-4 I caught this week was the biggest, but in the last 6 or 7 days that I have fished on Fork, I have caught 4 10-pounders.
Wow.
I've caught one in practice this week. I caught one in the tournament, and then you got to throw a 9 in there. And then the last event that we were here at the TTBC, the first day I had 5 for, I think, 39, and I had 2 10-pounders that day. So it's just one of the lakes that, you just kind of jive with. I mean, it kind of fits my style. It's shallow, it's nasty, as far as stumps and things like that. And I just kind of, I kind of know I think I know where they live at for the most part. But, it's just cool. It's kind of like Florida. Florida and Texas are real similar. Whenever you pitch out there, and you get that bite, your line jumps. There's a quarter of a second that you're thinking, is it going to be a 2-pounder or is it going to be a 10-pounder? And that's what makes it exciting to fish places like that. In practice, I was in the back of a creek and near a bridge, and there's cars going over, everybody's honking and stuff, and you don't even lift your head. And for some reason, there was a car that went by, and I just happened to look up, and it was the Share Lunker truck. It's wrapped down here. These trucks actually haul, 13 plus pound fish around. They go pick them up, and that's whenever it kind of hit home. Hey, I'm on Fork. There's big ones here. Somebody probably just caught a 13-pounder, and so you better be on your A game. It's different down here than it is a big part of the country on how they take care of fish.
Jason, Lake Fork, middle of March, lots of boat traffic down there. I mean, we've seen pictures, we've heard stories about how crowded it could be. I mean, you guys are out there. How has the boat traffic, recreational and other tournaments been? I mean, I've watched a lot of it, and it seems like you guys have had a lot of water to fish out there.
We have. I think one of the things that kind of got in my head, I don't know how it affected fishing, but they had a kayak event. And I would have rather have seen just a regular bass tournament, because these kayaks can access things that not a lot of guys will try to go in. I had a backwater the first day that I literally pulled in and practiced, put the power poles down and cast it in every direction. And had bites. And I saved it until the second period, and that's whenever of the first day, that's when the big swing took place, because I had a slow first period. The second period, I was going to go to this backwater, and I was supposed to idle a mile. You get excited, you run through the stumps. I shut down, look behind the little island there, and there's a kayak sitting right in the middle of it. And I was kind of proud of myself, because that's a point where things could have went downhill. And I was like, all right, plan A is over. It's time to go to plan B. And plan B is that's how I caught a lot of those fish the second period. So there's been a lot of traffic, but we're on a lake that has a lot of fish and a lot of big fish, and there's a lot of places to fish. I mean, you see 2 or 3 boats in a pocket. I mean, everybody's doing different things. The locals are doing something different, and of course we're doing something different. There's enough fish to go around. It has gotten a little bit tougher. And I think that's a combination of the weather conditions and the fishing pressure.
I know that I knew like last week. I hadn't seen you in a few weeks, and we were at the show last week, and I ran into you the first day towards the afternoon. And this is a pretty good story. I was kind of thinking, honestly, I couldn't remember the question exactly, but it was something like I was going to get a hot dog or something, and we walked into a booth together, and I think I was pretty much just going to say, hey, dude, I'm going to get a hot dog. Would you like one? So I said, hey, dude, I got a question for you. And you just stared me straight in the eye, and you kind of grinned, and you said, why I haven't been catching them? And I was like, no, that was not what was on my mind at all. And as I left the booth, I was like, those poor bass are about to pay. So it was not a surprise when I saw your 10-4 get mounted and the weights go up this week. But that was not my question or anything that had ran through my mind at all.
I'll tell you a cool story that's happened this week. And so my daughter, she played in the state tournament in Oklahoma. A few days before the state tournament, we went to the gym, and she has an issue. She can shoot lights out. She can shoot better than me when I was in 8th grade. And I was rebounding for her, and we have like 45 minutes before the Super Bowl starts. And she's one of the kids, she's like me. She gets out there, she shoots a couple times, she doesn't make it, and she tends to not shoot as much. But she's also that kid when she goes to making them that you better watch out. Well, I was talking to her about it, trying to coach her, and I told her, I said, you're going to miss shots in games. You are. I said, it is impossible for you to miss 3 in a row. If you're focused, it's impossible for you to miss 3 in a row. It was 45 minutes before the Super Bowl, and I said, whenever you miss 3 in a row, we're going to go home. And I sat and fed the ball to her for 45 minutes. And finally I said, hey, it's time to go. The Super Bowl's coming on. You need to miss 3 in a row. Well, I'll tell you that story because I have a good friend that I deer hunt with, that I fish with, smartest guy I've ever been outdoors. He's very smart. And I told him that story. And he put it back on me at the end of the conversation after I told him. He goes, well, don't you think that it's impossible for you to have 3 bad ones in a row? And that was the first text that I got after that first day, was from him saying, I told you it was impossible for you to go 3 in a row. And, that made me feel better, and it kind of puts the ball back on me. Sometimes I sit and coach and tell my kids this and that, and maybe sometimes I need to listen to some of the things I say.
It's hard to be your own coach. That's something that's different about this sport, is we don't have coaches, and so you don't have somebody to kind of look from the outside sometimes. I mean, your friends try, and but it only goes so far.
Yeah. We have critics, don't we, Paint Rack?
I wasn't. This has gotten blown way out of proportion. I logged on to Instagram the other day. There's a picture of you with the 10-pounder, and I'm like tagged 10 times in it. I'm like, oh, God, this is not going well. I was simply pointing out that I thought it was impossible for you to do what you had done because my respect for you was so high on the water. I never criticized anything. It was more of a disbelief than it was. There was no coaching, no criticism whatsoever. Brad and I talked about this. He told me I shouldn't be scared of you.
What's funny is at the Classic, you have people, I had a ton of people come up and say, man, I really like that interview with Pangrack. You got him really good. But what was funny is I never seen you at the Classic except for one time. And it's like, how busy it was. I look up about 50 yards, and we're walking toward each other, and you raise your head up, and then all of a sudden you turn and go the other way.
Well, here's the thing. You saw me once. I saw you about 10 times, so that'll tell you. I'm like, no Falcon booth right now. Nope, not walking by the AFCO booth again. I just made sure when I talked to the AF guy, I said, now who's scheduled in the booth with us right now? It was like, it was like Wesley Strader. And I was like, no one else from Oklahoma? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, we're good to go.
Hey, Jason, he didn't know that you were going to be on today. So when he walked in the studio and I was getting ready for the show and he saw the graphic up there, he was like, Jason Christie's on today? Really? He was a little concerned.
It's actually a comp. I mean, dude, you and I both know guys who haven't caught him for 10 years that we don't talk about them not catching. So the fact that you went 3 days is actually a compliment that we brought it up.
Very nice. All right, a couple of people on the instant feedback, Jason, want to know, how important was color selection this week so far?
Well, a good rule in Texas is green pumpkin. Honestly, it makes sense because I started off doing a lot of flipping in practice, and I wasn't getting bit. And of course, I was using black and blue. The water's really dirty on the upper end, which is where I did a lot of fishing. And I just sat down and made a color change and started getting bites. I really don't know if it matters a lot. It's one of those things in your head. You got to have confidence in the color. I can sit here and tell you green pumpkin, and I'm sure there's guys out there that are fishing that are catching them are going to say black and blue or white or whatever. But the color selection on baits, I think, for the most part, is in a person's head. Bradley's shaking his head.
No, I agree. I'm shaking yes up and down.
That's what I'm saying. Bradley's agreeing with me. I think it really is. I mean, obviously there's times you're not going to go to Table Rock and flip a black and blue. You're going to do something more on the natural side, but day in, day out, color selection's in your head.
Totally agree.
Very nice. Back to the instant feedback. Dave wants to know, are you using the guide chip to get around fork?
I am, for the most part. It's funny, in practice you use it and you stop whenever it says stop. But when you're on the clock, man, I highly do not recommend this, but you just trim her up and let her eat. I mean, you just pray that whenever you shut down, you don't shut down on top of one of them. You kind of got to be smart. We're lucky now that the lake is a little bit high. So, I I am using the guide chip to answer the question.
What's the sketchiest run you've ever made in your career? Like, does one stick out where you're like, I cannot believe I just did that?
That's a good question.
There is one. It was on Dardanelle. I had my dad with me. My dad could practice with me, and I saved this little place that I was going to try to get into on the last day of practice. And my dad is very conservative, don't want to do anything Evel Knievel wise. And I'm going to run in this creek, and I tell him, and I'm not even a half mile going in there, and I hit a stump that had a piece of rebar in it, and just pretty much trashed the bottom of my boat. I never even tried to go on in, So I took him back. He had to go to work the next day, dropped him off. Never got to go in there and practice. And it was super tough fishing. And the first day of the tournament, it was like 10:30. And I drew a guy that lived there that I've known for a long time. And I said, man, we both had like one fish. I said, we're going to do something. We're either going to catch them or we're going to be spending the night on top of a sandbar. And I tried that run again and just, running in. And I had to run across about 250 yards of water that was 8 inches thick. The good thing was it was, it was trash. It wasn't safe. So it was soft. But as we're running in, I'd never been in there before. As we're running in, I can see big stumps everywhere. And I got all the way back there. And I could see on Google where I needed to shut down. There was a bend in this little creek. And when I got there was a log jam in that bend. And literally when I shut the boat down, the boat set and it nosed up. About half of the boat went up on the log jam.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, the guy that was with me, he's an avid duck hunter. And whenever we shut down, he said, you are the craziest person I have ever been with. So we get back there and we spend the next 30 minutes moving logs. Like we had to tie, a rope on and move a log here, move a log there. We get in there and we fish for 15 minutes and both of us catch a limit. So I was able to run in and out of there for 3 days without hitting one of those stumps. And like I said, I highly do not recommend that. But that's some of the things that we do to get away from boat traffic, especially late in the year.
Wow. All right. Jay in Ontario wants to know, do you do any modifications to your pad crasher?
Not really, other than trimming the legs. I add weight to the bait depending on what I'm fishing. I think the one I'm fishing this week has 2 to 3 BBs in it, and it makes the frog set a little bit lower. In clearer water, I want it to set high where I can work the bait faster. But when it's dirtier, I want it to set a little bit lower, create a little bit of disturbance. But you just simply add BBs in it. I've fished mats on Gunnersville where I've had 25 BBs in it, where the mat's really thick, and I want that frog I want to move that mat when I go across. So that's the only 2 things. I mean, day in, day out, normal water conditions, straight out of the package, trim the legs a little bit, tie it on. I do put a trocar hook in it. That's one thing that I do. The other hook is great, but I like the trocar hook.
All right, Scott from Indiana wants to know, how hard is it to see them this week? He said the water looks really dirty.
I'm fishing pretty dirty water. I actually saw the first one yesterday, and it had already bit my bait I pitched over there, and there was a buck that swam out, and I caught the female. It's really hard because the water's dropping, and they'll get behind something. They're not just up there on a deeper bed. I think the guys down the lake can probably see pretty well, but I'm not able to see. I can see the beds now since the water's dropped. They're up there 6 inches deep, and that's what's happened. These fish have got to the outside edge of that bed, and they're not getting on top of the bed. They're just sitting there guarding, and it makes it a little bit tougher to see them. But I think I made the comment on live yesterday, I don't want to sight fish this week. It just takes too much time. I just want to go down the bank fishing for them.
All right, there you have it. What do you know about Lake Athens?
Nothing. I know I'm about 3 minutes away from it right now, and it's raining, and I'm going to go out and run around in hopes that I get to fish there Wednesday. I do know that it's not a very big lake. And when I came by the boat ramp, there was probably 20 boats, trailers there. So it's going to be a lot like Fork. Hopefully it's a lot like Fork where it has big ones. I would think that with it being this close to the hatchery, that more so have gotten out and into that lake than anywhere else. Maybe from rain or just the guys make a trip around. They deliver all the babies to the other lakes. They come back and they're like, we got a few left over. Let's just put them here.
Wow.
Kind of like cement. You got extra cement left. You just dump it close to the house.
There's a couple lakes around Oklahoma that are really popular lakes, but there's smaller lakes around them, and those big lakes kind of protect those smaller lakes.
Absolutely.
Because everyone who drives is like, oh, I'm going to go fish this lake or this lake because they've heard about it, but it's those little lakes that are around it that have some megas in it, right?
Oh, yeah.
See, I didn't say any names there. Right. Protected it.
Yeah, JD in Illinois wants to know real quick, what's your rod and reel setup that you're primarily using this week?
I'm using 2. I'm flipping a bunch, 7, 4, Falcon Expert, and 8.3 Lew's, 25-pound Sunline, power to CFC. I think I mentioned that on live yesterday. It's a big deal for me because I'm getting a little bit older. It's getting a little hard to see, but also it's just the light conditions, the watercolor. It's hard to see your line, and these fish aren't moving a lot when they get the bait, but it's got some orange in it, and it just makes it really visible. That's my flipping setup, and then I was doing some frogging. It kind of went downhill yesterday, and that's a 6'11" Expert, Falcon Expert Bayou with the same reel, 8.3, and then 50-pound braid. If I could throw a 100-pound braid, I would, but 50's doing the job. But man, you just don't expect to get those kind of bites on a frog, or I didn't expect to get those kind of bites.
Biggest frog fish of your life?
It is. The last time we were here, I caught a 8-12 on a frog, and that was the biggest. And then now it's a 9-2 on a frog.
Wow. Real quick though, you watched how it ate, and you've watched the replays, kind of gone viral there, where you're like, I thought it was a gar. In your experience though, have the bigger topwater fish that you've caught hit it the softest? Because I hear guys talk about that a lot.
Yeah, you're probably right. It seems like the 3-4 pounders, they just get all crazy on it, but the big ones, they just suck it up. I actually lost an FLW event once. I forget where it was at, and I was throwing a frog. I finished 4th or 5th and lost a 5-pounder the last day because, I'm fishing it real slow, and my frog just goes under. And I start reeling, thinking that my frog's full of water, and it starts fighting back, and a 5-pounder jumps and throws my bait. But yeah, you're right. A lot of those big ones, they just suck it under. So I've caught some big ones too, that like that 8-12 I caught here last time. You thought a bowling ball came out of a plane, but
you just made Mark's day right there. You just referenced a topwater bite with a bowling ball reference. Yeah. Jeffries is going to replay that 50 times.
That's good stuff. Great stuff. All right, Jason. Man, appreciate you taking time out. Best of luck to you. Anything else? You got anything for Matthew at all?
No, we're good. I just like giving him a hard time.
All right.
What you don't realize is the 2 days after the show, you were like, hey, you can come and we can talk about it. And I had an ABA on 10 killer. And being the genius that I am, I was like, I'm going to the release area and throw it a dead rig. And I roll in there the first morning, and I draw a kid. He's 18-year-old kid who watches BTL religiously. First thing he asked me in the morning is, does it bother you that Jeffries calls you Matthew and not Matt? Second thing he asked me was, how upset is Jason really at you? So we roll to this spot. I sat down and I look up and I go, that question you just asked me? I go, there he is putting in.
So I asked, I was like, did you say hi to him? He was like, heck no.
So I was fishing that bluff there where you put in, everyone parks in a spot. Jason just rolls up on the gravel and parks in front. Doesn't even pull his truck, just parks in front. Lets everyone know Christie's on 10 killer. So I said, let's just go duck in this little pocket right here behind this marina until he idles past. Then I came out, went on, continued with my day.
Jeez.
Dude, it's serious. It's like the Denny Brower. You've got the edge on him for sure.
Wow.
I love it.
Wow. All right, man. Best of luck to you. Keep it up, and good luck at the next event here coming up pretty quick in North Carolina, man.
Awesome. Thank you guys. You guys have a good day.
All right, take
See
care.
you, Bubba. Good luck.
There you have it, Jason Christie, live via Skype. And once again, I want to thank Tricia at MLF for getting that set up. I know she went over and above to make sure that we were going to have going to have Jason on today, getting that set up at the Texas Freshwater Fisheries
That guy's
Wildlife Center.
Such a backwater hound. I didn't want to tell a story while he was just on there, but once, this has been many years ago, and I won't name the pond for many reasons, but it was a large fishery, massive, and I had found a backwater that I had been in prior, like 2 weeks before, in a pre-practice, and I showed up. It was going to be my actual first day of practice. We'd had an event the week before. Anyway, long story short, this thing was very difficult, like you're talking about the hairiest run you've ever made. Very difficult to get to. And I had done it before, so I'm running it, and I'm running it full speed. And it got to the part that really wasn't that hairy in my mind, and it became hairy when I knocked my motor off at 45 miles an hour.
Oh!
Yeah, completely lost the motor. I mean, gone off. This is a brand new boat, too. It's about this time of year. Just to get out in the boat, you know, the routine. It was wrapped. We had to go to California. This is like, it's when I was on the Elite Series. 2007. No, before that. This is probably 07, 08.
Yeah.
He and I were roommates. We're staying together for this regional event. And I get in that night, and I'm like, dude, I'm torn my motor off my boat, you know. And a buddy of mine's loaned me another boat to fish out of, but, like, I've got to get to California. And so he's asking me, you know, what all happened. And I was like, man, I was going into this backwater. And we don't talk about, like, specifics. I mean, especially at this point, because we fish a lot alike. And, you know, anyway, it's just me and him. And anyway, the next day he comes in, and he's kind of got that grin on his face that he has, and he goes, hey, I said, yeah, he said, I found your backwater. I was like, really? Now, because I didn't know what I'd actually hit. Like, because I mean, I hit it at 50 mile an hour, motor's gone. He said, I found what you hit. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah, because your boat track's going up the bank, you know, went right up the bank.
Oh my gosh.
We probably should tell that story while he was on, but for him, like, it was that difficult to get in there, and he got in there, you know, and he actually fished it. And he told me, it's like the first bend, you know, he said, popped a 7-pounder, and he said I was going to shake any other bite I got, and he never got another bite. But long story short, no rock goes unturned with that guy.
Is that your sketchiest run? Because I mean, you're cut from the same cloth. You said that. What's your sketchiest run?
You know, that wasn't in my mind the sketchiest, because the bottom was like what he's talking about. It's silt and it kind of gives. Places that you know are rock bottom, those are the places that really scare me to death.
Like, if you had one where you're going
Like,
into
there's
the
no
tournament
give. There's
and
no
you
give.
like know you'll catch him if you're back there, and you're just sitting there going, weighing it, is it worth it? Am I going to be able to get in there? Am I going to be able to get back? I mean, I would imagine that would have to be a struggle. I just don't really fish that style.
We had a PAA championship somewhere down in Texas, and Jason won that one. We were all in the back of a deal there too, but there were more guys going in that event. And there was a really, really bad spot in it that was rock, like ting, like I'd already lost a skeg on it, and I was worried about that spot. After the meeting, I asked Butcher, I said, are you going to run that spot? Terry was like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. And I was thinking about just idling. He said, dude, you will get run over. I think I asked Biffle. That's what it was. I asked Biffle at the meeting that question. And when we left, Terry was like upset with me that I would even ask Biffle that question. He's like, he's running over you, Hallman. But yeah, we've all run some stuff that's not well advised.
I remember one time when I was covering an Elite Series event, and there were a group of guys that were standing around talking about a sketchy run they were going to make. And it sticks out in my head is Bobby Lane just goes, well, that's why they make more than one lower unit.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Kind of, you know, it's interesting when you make that first sketchy run. I mean, everybody that's tournament fished, for the most part, you've been in an area of the lake that you've never been to before. There's always that fear of the unknown a little bit. Even that very first run. I mean, this was many, 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 many years ago, but the first time that you go up the Neosho at Grand, if you don't know what you're doing and where you're going, it could be pretty gnarly. And I remember the first time I ever made that run was in a Central Pro-Am, and I was scared to death, dude. I really was. It was white knuckle.
Well, here's some intel to what he's talking about at Lake Fort. So this is some good information right here. Lake Fork is a reservoir that they left a lot of the timber in and they flooded it, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it was built in what, 1970, 80,
something like that,
somewhere in there,
yeah.
70s, and opened in the 80s. Okay, so that lake's been there for a long time. We have lots of lakes that are like this. We even have a lot in Oklahoma that are like this, or parts of them.
Yeah.
But this is kind of the general rule that he is using in his mind that he's talking about right now. That I've probably that's the one that I use also, and it's the same thing. When a lake sits at, let's say the normal pool levels at let's just say 745 Grand Lake. I don't know why the numbers in my head, but that's normal pool. So the trees that are sticking up at normal pool at 745 over that 30, 40 year period, that's where the water is, and then it comes down and comes back up and comes down. It's where the waves are. So you're having water, air, water, air, water, air. Everything that stays below the water does not rot. I mean, it's solid as a rock. The stuff above rots, but where the water and the air keep mixing over and over and over is where they rot and break and they fall over. So for the most part, the tops of the majority of your stumps are at 745. Okay? Anytime you raise the lake level to 746, 746 and a half, then those stumps become what we're talking about, out of sight, out of mind, because you're not requiring but 10 inches to run in. So your chances of hitting one of those are much, much slimmer, which allows us to run some ponds like Lake Fork and not really worry about the chip as much or the lanes as much.
Do you follow the theory, and Harold Allen told me this, is when you're on a lake and you see massive stumps or a massive row, big stumps, that you run as close as you possibly can to those giant stumps, because when they were trees, it created a canopy which prevented
100%.
other...
That 100% makes a lot of sense. That giant tree also is probably in the channel, which means there's probably other trees close to it. I mean, once you get past that, I mean, we're talking about running 40, 50 miles an hour. That
Harold would run at 70. I remember he would find the biggest stump road that he could and run Toledo as close to it as he could.
Toledo Bend is one of the meccas of the type of reservoir that we're talking about here. But anyway, I just want to throw that in because that's
good stuff.
Cool insight there.
Heck yeah.
All right. You guys have something to talk about. I know a lot of people on the instant feedback are already asking about it. Can you talk a little bit about the Big Bite Bait, I don't know, contest, viewer engagement? What can you guys talk about, what you got going on?
Yeah, I guess just kind of start, Brad has been filming a lot for, how long ago did we go to Lucky Lure?
Been a while.
A couple months?
Yeah.
And it was kind of a deal to where Brad had some ideas in his head for a new kind of flipping bait that incorporated 2 or 3 things that he really liked that didn't really seem to be out on the market yet. But what's going to happen is he's going to follow this process all the way through. So it hasn't been released, but you'll have kind of like a series or a number of videos that kind of document from, hey, I kind of like an idea for this bait, and then all the way through to where you can go into a store and pick it up on the package, and it's the Brad Hallman flipping bait. So we're
also covering how the bait's built.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. So I mean, some really cool stuff went down when we went and visited Big Bite. If you watch Brad's YouTube channel, Bradley Hallman Fishing, he just put up a behind the scenes where we went to Big Bite, and something that's not in there is, I mean, you had an hour and a half meeting with the guys who are building the mold for it.
Right. And then they had the CADs, which are the drawings that have the measurements on it to build the actual mold. And so what's being done now is they're building a single shot mold, which is what they build first before they build the multi dimension that's got 19 baits in one mold. So you start with the single shot, and they can shoot one at a time. We get prototypes from that, and that's kind of where we are right now, is waiting for that single shot to be completed and possibly get some prototypes and then go from there.
Is this kind of how you thought it would go? Because this is the first bait that you've designed. I've never really talked to you about
I learned a lot. I don't know that it's any different than I thought it would go. It makes sense once we kind of got involved in the process, but no, I guess I just never envisioned all that out in my mind, of course we learned a lot seeing how plastics were made last week at Big Bite at the factory too. It was a really cool walkthrough.
Is that the first time you've seen that?
Yes, it was.
The way it's poured and all that?
Yeah. What was really cool is you're sitting at a table there with the guy who actually does makes the single shot mold, and then a couple of the other bait designers there, who have made baits that everyone else has flipped. Right. And they brought, what was that deal that measured the diameter down to like hundreds of inches and stuff. So he pulls out this thing, and they get in like a 20-minute conversation over, was it like a 32nd of an inch of plastic on whether you wanted it this diameter or this diameter or this feature or that feature or that. I mean, that thing, you guys got really into that just over minute details for a long time.
Well, it's obviously easier to fix something on paper than it is to fix it once it's carved into a mold, you know. So I mean, that's why you're trying to spend all your time there doing it. But for the listeners that don't know, I mean, it's a flipping bait. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the name?
No, hold off on that.
All right.
Because that might change.
Okay, it could change.
Brad can't talk about anything he really wants to talk about today.
No, but what can you talk about how the viewers might get involved with this thing? Can you do that?
Yeah, so obviously since this process is kind of played out on BTL and it kind of came about as we wanted to incorporate the listeners into this bait. And I mean, it's a really cool bait. Like it's a Bradley, like you look at it and you'll be like, it's like what Brad likes to throw.
Yeah.
But like I said, then we went and looked afterwards. We're like, this is really unique because it's not really a copy of anything, but it takes elements of a lot of the best features of flipping baits.
Yes.
I mean, you're not going to look at it and be like, that's wild looking.
No.
But none of the like, think about the baits you really catch fish on. How many of them are like, that's wild looking? Like, not that many.
It's a bait that I would definitely walk down the aisle and it would catch my eye, and I would say I got to try to flip that.
Anyway, so what we're doing with that is we're in several different stages of how we want to present this bait, but right now it looks like the BTL viewers are going to possibly get the first run at this bait to get a shot through listening to the show. We'll do some giveaways during a call-in shows. We'll probably run some contests once it comes out. I'm not exactly sure the timeline as far as the single shot. So they have to do the single shot mold, right?
Correct.
Then they'll send you 3 or 4 packs of them,
prototypes,
because they're pouring them one at a time there,
right.
And then you have to go out and flip with it,
right?
Or cast with it or rig with it, do whatever you want to do with it, and then you send back and say, hey, this is it. Everyone signs off on it. Then they have to build the mold. Then they have to pour the baits. And there's a long process. You get some of that in Brad's latest YouTube video that kind of shows the warehouse and some of the stuff we could see. But the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to run a color contest. And instead of having everybody send in all their colors, basically, Brad's going to work with some of the people at Big Bite to come up with kind of 3 unique colors. We even had a fan suggest the colors of the BTL logo.
Neon green?
With neon green, a little bit of orange in there, which isn't bad.
It's really not bad, especially if you did it.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of blue. So I got that email in there. We might give him, but we'll give you 3 color choices, and then through the BTL, you guys will be able to vote, and then you'll get the exclusive BTL color that they'll do a run of.
All right, now I have a question. If somebody wants to, Matt, can they send a color to you and you guys kind of discuss it, or they send a picture of a color, hey, you should do this, to where if they want to, they can send suggestions to you guys?
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yeah. You can do it on
social medias, DM us, whatever. We're everywhere.
Brad's YouTube, my email, matt@bassone.com, my Instagram,
absolutely,
@Matt Pangrac. Brad Hallman, what's your Instagram?
Bradley Hallman Fishing.
You really spice things up.
Hey, Dave, and it's not Dave Rush, by the way, says when this thing comes to fruition, you need to have a one-on-one live using only the bait. Hallman versus Matt. What do you think, Matthew?
How about Hallman versus you?
Dude, are you kidding me? Can you Carolina rig it?
I'm sure you could. Yeah, absolutely. 110%. 110%.
Yeah. You could also buzz it across the surface if you wanted to. Put it on the back of a buzz bait.
You could do a lot of different things.
Put it on the back of that.
It's going to be versatile.
But it's cool to see the process. It's a lot, I guess, more intimate, more hands-on than...
Have you seen the process before?
Yes.
I guess you have.
Yeah, I have. 2 different places.
Okay.
I actually got a tour of the Jean LaRue plant when they were pouring, and it was crazy. Obviously, the scale is totally different from a perspective of how many and how much is being poured there compared to Jean LaRue. But there was an area at Jean LaRue where you walk by and they just have rack after rack after rack after rack of plastics just hanging from those racks. And it's kind of like, holy crap.
It's like it. They said it was like fresh bread when those baits come out.
Yeah.
And they hang them up and you like touch them and you're like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So
they were really soft right out of the oven.
Oh, yeah.
But straight out of the mold, they're just like, whew,
I didn't think it'd be like, oh, we're sitting down and here's the guy who's going to make the mold, and here's the people who are going to pour the mold, and here's the people who are going to send you the mold, and here's the people who are going to package it, and here's the people who are going to send it to the store. I mean, they're all right there.
Yeah.
It's not like send it off for the drawing, like he's sitting there talking with the guy who did the CAD drawing. It's not like send it off and come back and you're working. I mean, it's all right there in-house. It's cool stuff.
It was amazing. It really was.
All right. What else, man? Anything else today? I know several people in the instant feedback, they want to know our thoughts on, is this really going to have a massive impact on bass in the Elite Series because of the fact that they've only had the Classic, they've had 2 days of fishing. Now what?
I think that's probably a great conversation you have tomorrow. But
with Ken?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I do see some opportunity. There's just like you, with a lot of things missing in the sports world, with some small altercations with what bass is doing.
Yeah.
They could carry on with the show possibly.
We'll see. And I'm reaching out. I'm going to try and reach out for some people at Bass, see if I can get some comments from them and just get their thoughts on the whole situation. And obviously it's a situation that is really – it's changed so drastically the last week and a half.
You know,
it really has.
The first thing that comes to my mind in small altercations is no more meetings. Thank God.
We didn't have a meeting at the ABA.
No more
last
meeting,
past
really.
ABA, you could buy a Freedom Pass, and they're like, yeah, no meeting. We'll just send you a text on all the info, and then I legitimately was probably around 15 people at the most for the entire tournament that had 60 plus boats in it. You're in there in the morning and you put your boat in and then you come in and they give you the bag on the boat and then there are, 10, 15 people in line and that was
those
it.
meetings are done Chamber of Commerce to show support and things like that. But to postpone or cancel an event, the Chamber would rather you still show up with those anglers, right? I mean, there's still hotels, gas being purchased, things like that. Things still going on in your community, especially at a time of need. Anyone agree with that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. Here's the other thing too. We don't know, and I will try and find out some answers on this. I really believe, based upon some of the people that I have spoken with, there were a lot of the guys that were sick. All right, and I think that had a lot to do with canceling that event too. I think in the best interest of everybody involved, that is the decision that had to be made. Because I think a lot of the guys were sick. Quite honestly.
When does this get back to normal? I mean,
who knows?
What are your
dude? Who knows? It could be July. It could be September. Heck, it could be May. It is uncharted territories for not just fishing.
I agree.
But life in general, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Carolyn, my wife, she's got a lot of concerns for me. Because of the health issues that I have with the heart, I have asthma, and she's like, do you really need to be doing what you're doing? And I haven't really thought about it because I was trying to be in that plateau of, okay, I'm going to try and do normal things, but do it with a very cautionary action.
Absolutely.
Be proactive in being very cautionary. But now it's starting to get to the point, when the governor's coming on here in the state of Oklahoma, calling for a state of emergency. We had our first, known virus affirmation here in Cleveland County, where we live. They're shutting down OU, even to workers, because there is an employee or a staff member at the University of Oklahoma that has the coronavirus. So it sucks right now.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, it really, really does. And what do? Do you try and maintain a normal life? Do you try and go on? I mean, you have young kids.
It's impossible.
Right?
I have 4 in the house. I mean, they breathe, but right now children aren't the ones with it.
It's the elderly.
Yep.
And the people that are susceptible because of the conditions that they have. I get it. But it is devastating the economy right now. It is devastating people's life savings, and who knows, man? Who knows? And life without sports. Who would have thought in our lifetime, Brad, that we ever would have had to deal with a situation where there's not a single professional sport
I
taking
actually
place.
Talked to my wife about this last night. I'm a big football fan, college football fan, but other than that, my sports pretty much stop.
Yeah.
And I know guys like you, just like you. I have had lots of friends that ESPN rolls the majority of the day or evening that they spend in front of the TV. I've not been that guy, but I understand that guy completely. And like last night, I just flipped through and I just wanted to see what was on ESPN because they've got to be struggling for material. And it was reruns of basketball.
Yeah.
previous games, just trying to fill those spots, you know, of guys. And then, you know, how do you sell those spots?
Yeah.
You know, how valuable is that to Coca-Cola to buy a spot on ESPN of a game that was a year old?
I'm going to tell you right now. This is what Bass needs to do, and I throw some ideas out there. If they have chosen to cancel, let's say, the next 2 events, what they need to do is it requires a very, very, very small staff. They need to set up some one-on-one lives with their guys.
Like the Zona Live used to do?
And create live content with 2 people in the boat. I mean, even take these measures, get them tested, make sure that they don't have the coronavirus, have one-on-one competition between guys, throw content out there.
Sublimated hazmat suits.
Yeah.
We're in a sport that the social spacing is not an issue.
Yes.
I mean, it is like the greatest thing. I actually took my camera and my boy out yesterday, and we did some social spacing is what I called it. That was our day fishing yesterday.
Yeah.
But it's the perfect environment for that. The only part of it that is bad is the weigh-in. Obviously the crowds and the meeting, the pre-meeting. But other than that,
traveling.
I mean, even takeoff is not that. I mean, you're still a distance away
That's why
from
I
each
think
other.
what MLF's doing, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Now,
and you're taking advantage of a time when there is nothing on. You know,
But
you're
also,
not competing against anything.
You know, you talk about opposite. You're also, I know part of it is if you have to travel and stay at a hotel, then that means you're eating out, and then that means you're more exposed, even if you're not around that many.
But see, hence, that's why my idea to create content. There are plenty of people that are in a 1-day driving distance to be able to pull this off. Centered around wherever in the country that you want to do this, and they could be home that evening. You see what I'm saying? There's no overnight stays. There's nothing. But now you are creating content of which
I agree.
You have an opportunity. Because what are people doing? They're at home.
I don't know.
That's what I said. Dye sublimated hazmat
I
suits.
volunteer for the first Open versus Bassmaster Classic champ. I'll do it.
Did you catch him yesterday?
Me and the boy?
Yeah.
We were only out there for 2 or 3 hours. Hey, we got the drone up and we caught a couple of bass. Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. Last thing on the instant feedback, it's kind of blowing up a little bit. People are saying this is overreactions, you know, the hoarding of toilet paper and all this. Believe me, there are some overreactions out there. But at the same time, we have kind of got to that peak. It's kind of like, you know, the sine curve. It's going up, and then it's going to get to the top of the bell curve, and then eventually it's going to slide back down. And man,
I can't believe he's talking. Jeffries yesterday went to Lucky Lure, bought every topwater they had.
What?
It's unbelievable.
I did not.
Every walking bait in Lucky Lure. You never know when you're going to be able to get them.
No. So hence, I thought it'd be a great idea to get Ken Duke on.
I think it is. I think it's a great idea.
The editor, managing editor for Fishing Tackle Retailer, to see what impact this is going to have on the game from a retail perspective, what impact it's going to have on the tournament industry, in his opinion. And is there opportunity for companies that are already set up to take advantage of the fact that, hey, order the stuff, get it shipped to you, you can go out, you don't have to deal with anybody. I still see people going out and fishing as long as they have the money.
That's going to be the thing.
Yeah.
In the beginning of this, the tackle industry and the fishing industry really is going to, I mean, just think about it. How many more boats do you think are going to be at Arbuckle Lake next week if this continues? You know,
a bunch.
It's going to be more than ever because nobody's going to be work. They're going to be at Arbuckle.
But the fallout afterwards, Bradley, is what really, really, really scares me.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right, because this state, as you know, cannot support $30 a barrel oil.
No.
Not going to happen.
No.
So some very, very challenging times ahead for everybody, not just the people in the fishing world that love this game. And we're going to continue tomorrow. Hank Cherry on Wednesday.
Good week.
And we will go from there. Anything else, Matthew?
No, what do you got coming up on your channel?
I've been thinking about doing this deal. Mark and I talked about it before. You remember when the guy, and I just went blank completely and don't mean to do that, shot the shows in Oklahoma, and he just went to all the small lakes, the city lakes.
Kirk Washburn?
So you remember when Washburn had that show? I think I'm going to start a little series. I've been wanting to do this for about a year anyways.
Yeah, you know what it was called? Performance bass fishing.
Performance bass fishing.
I've never heard of this.
Oh, yeah.
But this is great.
Oh, hang on. I'm sorry, Bradley. His son kicked your ass and finished second at 10 Killer.
Oh,
at the
Chase,
ABA?
Junior.
Yeah, Chase Washburn.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't look at the standings.
Yeah. Anyway, I saw.
But he used to have a great show.
A lot of people who kicked my ass lately.
It was one of the best shows that aired for a long time.
Long time.
Kurt's show was great. It was very interesting to all of us. But this pertains to a lot of people nationwide that have small city lakes, just like what Matt was talking about earlier, where the small lake next to the big lake doesn't get any pressure or attention. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I'm going to show some of that off this year with some of my stuff with the series that I'm going to do. And I'm just going to bounce around to some of these lakes, and I'm going to say which lakes that I'm on.
Interesting. Who was that other throwback name Harmon Davis.
Harmon Davis.
Yeah. He was the one who won that first ABA. He came up. He said, "Hey, tell Mark I said hi."
Yeah. Good stuff.
He's been around forever too, huh?
Harmon has, yeah.
He had like 20 pounds.
Yeah. I think he almost won the cup or something one year. Wasn't it something like that?
Yeah.
Finished second in the cup. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
I believe that's
so.
correct. Yeah.
I think so.
Yep.
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap things up here on a Monday. I want to thank Jason Christie for taking time out of his event going on at Lake Fort. Big thanks to Tricia at Major League Fishing for getting that set up to have Jason on live via Skype. All right, tomorrow, Ken Duke, Hank Cherry on Wednesday. Everybody out there, be safe. We're coming at you tomorrow. Same time right here on BTL. That's it. We're out of here.